Hey everyone, and welcome to the Retro channel, and today we're taking a quick look at how to add Wi-Fi capability to one of Rigol's new DHO800 series oscilloscopes. These are Rigol's new 2023 line of budget scopes, and from what I found, they are incredibly capable. I couldn't be happier with this one for the price. If you're looking for a full review of these, definitely check out Dave Jones on the EEV blog channel. I'll throw a link to that up there. Today, I just want to talk about the networking capabilities and the missing Wi-Fi capability. So in this room here, I don't actually have any wired Ethernet ports. I have to rely on everything connecting over Wi-Fi here. So having a big long Ethernet cable running from in here out to my router just so I can use this over the network isn't exactly ideal. But thankfully, because this thing is running a version of Android, and thanks to some clever people on the EEV blog forum, you can actually add Wi-Fi capability to this for a very cheap price. This is the TP-Link 150 megabits per second wireless N nano USB adapter. This thing I paid $12 Australian for. That was including delivery, but you can get it on Amazon in the US for 10 bucks, or I think just under. So a very cheap way to add Wi-Fi to this scope. Now, as I mentioned, this thing is running Android, and it does actually include some built-in Wi-Fi drivers. We just need to be able to access those settings in order to set it up properly. One of the drivers that is included is the Realtek RTL8188 EUS, which is what this hardware is based on. There are actually a couple of versions of these, so you definitely want to look out for version 2.0 or version 3.0. The version 1.0 of these things actually uses a RTL8188 CUS driver, and that is not compatible with these things. So definitely look out for version 2 or version 3, and it is labeled on the outside of the box. So what we're going to need to do this is obviously our little Wi-Fi dongle. We'll need a USB keyboard interface, so I'm just using a little Logitech Nano receiver which will communicate with this Logitech wireless keyboard. We're going to need a little USB hub, so we need to hook up at least two USB devices, one of them being the keyboard receiver and the other one obviously being this little guy in here. Let's get this out. So we'll plug this into my little USB hub. I think I stole this thing out of like a LCD monitor or something, but works good as a USB hub. And we're just going to plug this into the front. So then we'll have both our USB keyboard available and the actual Wi-Fi dongle. The reason we need a keyboard is because there's no easy way to get the inbuilt keyboard up on the screen when you're actually entering in your Wi-Fi password. And plugging the Wi-Fi dongle directly into the oscilloscope doesn't do anything either. You actually need to get into the Android settings to set it up properly. So let me go hook this up to our router. I'm just going to leave it out there because I can access everything I need to with the laptop in here. Hold up. Turns out we don't even need to do that. Yes, thanks to Fungus on the EEV blog forum, he discovered that some of the Android shortcut keys are still active on the Rigol. So all we need to do is plug in our little USB hub with our keyboard adapter and Wi-Fi dongle, power the scope on, and the scope does take about 45 to 50 seconds to start up. I guess that's the price you pay for basing it on Android. I suppose it could be worse. It could be based on Windows CE or something. Right, and with our scope booted, all we need to do is press Windows N, or it could be Command N if you're using an Apple keyboard, I guess. You'll notice that it says damaged storage here. I have been poking around with this scope, and I don't know if I've changed something that's upset it a little bit, but it still seems to work fine. So yeah, I don't think that damaged storage message is from me connecting the Wi-Fi. It's probably from me poking around at other things on this scope. So if you do try this out, let me know. Put a comment down below if you get that damaged storage warning when you first try connecting Wi-Fi. I'd be interested to know if it just is on there on every scope or if it's something that I've done. Anyway, we'll come back to that. All we need to do is hit the little settings icon, and that'll bring up our Wi-Fi, and this one here is mine. And of course we need the keyboard to type in the password because there's no on-screen keyboard. You can just hit enter and it should connect to our Wi-Fi network. And that's it. It says length long. I don't know what that means, but if we hit escape a couple of times and go into the Rigol menu, utilities, it does say network status disconnected, but it also gives us an IP address. So we are actually connected via Wi-Fi to my network. So we can now disconnect the USB hub and just plug the actual Wi-Fi dongle directly into the scope. and give it a second to connect. And there we go. It says LAN disconnected, but we do have an IP address. So now we can jump on the computer and play around with it. So if we head to that IP address, which in my case is 192.168.1.147, we'll get the Rigol web control so we can play around with stuff in here. And if we open up the actual web control panel, there it is. We've got access to our scope and we can play around with various things. The mouse functionality, I mean, it does work all right. I don't think there's much sort of zooming capabilities. So for instance, if you want to zoom in on a waveform or like expand the time base or the voltage scale, it doesn't seem to use the cursor wheel to do any of that. So it is a little bit limited, but it does make it a lot easier for me to grab screenshots and recordings because I can simply do that by right-clicking on here and just going save image as, rather than trying to do the same thing on the scope and then exporting that image over to the computer. But yeah, that is it. That is how we hook up our Rigol scope via Wi-Fi for 10 bucks. As I mentioned, it is possible to poke around on this thing using ADB, so I've just downloaded the minimal ADB and fastboot tools for Windows, and if we go ADB connect and then our scope IP address and port number 55555, 55s, that will get us into the scope and we can ask for root access. Obviously, don't do this if you don't know what you're doing, because you probably can break your oscilloscope and you'll be shit out of luck then. So if we check ADB devices, yes, we're still connected. So now we can jump into the shell and we can poke around at files on the actual Rigol scope without taking out the little SD card that's in there. So yes, you can poke around in there, you can back up stuff, run commands, that kind of thing. So let's just disconnect from that. This thing is quite tight in this USB port. It's actually hard to get out once it's in there. Just get some pliers and gently pull it out. So yes, as I mentioned, I was poking around in this thing and I did make a couple of other little changes. So if we go, I actually installed an Android launcher on here because there's no launcher on the Rigol scope. But yes, this is possible, and yes, it does run Doom. There's just no sound. Because there's not really, I mean, there's a little beep speaker in this oscilloscope, but I don't think there's a proper speaker or any sound drivers, so that's not a big deal, but yes, you can play Doom. And because we can access our notifications, we can also turn up the screen brightness. I of course took the liberty to install a Commodore 64 emulator. I haven't tried to load up a game with it, but I assume it is possible. We do have access to the keyboard, so yeah, that's a thing as well. Anyway, that's enough silliness with this scope. Like I said, be careful if you're poking around at things like this, because you could accidentally break something, but I don't think I have as of yet. The scope still seems to perform as a scope. Now, of course, there are actual proper hacks for the oscilloscope side of things. There's still sort of, people are still poking around at it, but it is possible to increase the bandwidth on these and also the memory depth as well. There are a couple of ways people are going about that. One of the ways is actually built into the scope, and that is basically unlocking some of the options in here. So there is an option for a 70 to 100 megahertz bandwidth upgrade, and it's currently set to limit, but people have worked out how to unlock that, and it seems to give more than 100, seems to go up to, somebody measured around 250 megahertz. These scopes out of the box only come with 150 megahertz probes. I don't think I really need 250 megahertz anyway, but it probably would be nice to unlock a little bit more bandwidth, so maybe that's something I'll play with in the near future. But as for now, this one was just, you know, setting up the Wi-Fi and doing a little bit of Doom as well. So that is it for this one. A huge thanks to the people on the EV blog forums for figuring this stuff out. Thank you for watching, and a massive thanks to the people that support the channel on Patreon. If you want to do the same, links to that are down in the video description. You'll get ad-free early access to all videos, and yeah, help me continue making videos like this one. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I will catch you in the next one. Bye. Do you need a break from scoping things? How about some doom?